coming out, and thank you for the invitation, Dwayne. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for giving me the strength to talk about this subject. It's not easy to come out of the closet and expose yourself the way I'm going to expose myself today. I'm not talking about the closet you think I'm talking about. But you get ridiculed for exposing yourself. People shy away from you when you expose yourself. And you get called crazy when you expose yourself. Though I ran from talking about this subject, I don't run anymore. I was born to a 15-year-old mother. While she was carrying me, she was stressed as well as depressed. And negative thoughts, she had negative thoughts all the time. As a result, it passed on to me. I'm a retired lieutenant from the Federal Bureau of Prisons and the founder of an organization called the Advocate for Justice. I retired because of major depression, post-traumatic stress disorders, and severe anxiety disorder. I worked in 6 prisons, 4 state prisons, and 2 federal prisons. My depression didn't start when my career began, although working in the prison system made it worse. It started over 40 years ago, before I even knew how to spell depression. I knew what depression was all about. I just knew when I was a boy, I used to feel sad all the time, but I never understood why. When the mental pain hit me at the age of 6, I used to go to the cemetery and cry. I didn't cry in front of people because I didn't want people to label me as a crybaby. As I got older, the pain was still there. I played sports and I was pretty good at it. I was pretty good at putting a smile on my face to cover up all the pain that I felt on the inside. By the time I got to the 11th grade, I went to a doctor and he told me I was suffering from depression. And he wanted me to see a shrink. But like most black people do, we refused to go get help. I was afraid of what people would say, so I ignored the pain and kept on with my life. Refusing to get help was the worst thing I could have ever done. And as I look back over my life, and I realized the amount of damage that occurred due to me refusing to allow the doctors to help me at the time, the bottom line, you need to get treatment as soon as possible. If not, it will only get worse over time. When I was in college, it was the same routine, but I started drinking to ease the pain. Smoked reefer, used cocaine. I had to stop because it made me paranoid. I worked out in the gym so hard just to get away from the pain. Even tried sex my way out of the pain. That's if I ever get sexually stimulated. Often people with depression can't feel anything. Most of the time you can't feel love for your own children and family members. I was dead on the inside. No one ever knew at any given time I wanted to blow my brains out. Before I got married, I tried to share my depression with a woman who became my wife, but she brushed it off. As to say, everyone goes through depression. Once she said this, I knew I couldn't come out of the closet to share my story. Eventually, I went to see a shrink, even though she didn't know anything about it. But today is a new day, so I share my story with you. Some of you have experienced depression in some shape, form, or fashion. I know someone who has. The title of my subject today is Straight Out of Hell. My personal experience with nothing but hell right here on earth. And throughout these times, we were taught to suppress our pain. As men, we were taught not to cry. And taught not to seek help. If we don't change our way of thinking, we're going to self-destruct. That song that was playing when I was introduced is by a person that suffered throughout his young life. And though he spoke about it in his lyrics, oftentimes we didn't hear his cry for help. The late Tupac Shakur. He wondered if he would live to see 23 years old. He had feelings of hopelessness and pain. He was tired of the pain and the strain. Tupac was crying out for help. There are many artists, past and present, that are reaching out for the same reason. Artists such as some of you might know and some of you don't. DMX, the rapper. The late Marvin Gaye, as well as the late Phyllis Hyman. I was able to identify with these signs of depression in the artist's lyrics because I was also suffering. I would like for you to take a minute to listen to DMX' word as he passionately cries out to God to help him.
Lord, give me a sign. I really need to talk to you, Lord. Since the last time we talked, the walk has been on. Now I know you haven't left me, but I feel like I'm alone. I'm a big boy now, but I'm still not grown, and I'm still going through it. Pain and a hurt, yeah, soaking up trouble like rain in the dirt. And I know only I can stop the pain with just a mention of my saving pain. In the name of Jesus.
Most of the time we listen to songs like this, we listen to the beats, we shake our heads, but we're not listening to the lyrics. We're not listening to the person that's crying out. We just bob and weep and get into the celebrity status. There's a lot of celebrity that crying out for help, but we only hear the beats and the music. Not only does depression strike famous people, but our kids are suffering in the school as well as adults in the workplace, especially during these tough economic times. You never know how a child is affected when they hear parents arguing and fighting all the time, taking illegal drugs, or drinking alcohol. Believe it or not, conduct such as this has a great impact on our children and leads them into a place of mental anguish. We need to take notice of our children's behavior. If your child is normally an A and B student, and they start bringing home D's and F, something is wrong. We need to investigate and get an understanding why our children are acting out and talking back and not respecting our elders. In order for us to help our children, we have to have the courage to help ourselves. My children didn't know what was going on with Daddy. Daddy had to have a talk with them about depression. I explained to them the meaning of depression and asked if they were feeling any of the things I spoke to them about. Had they said yes, I would have gotten immediate help for them. I wouldn't have let them go as far as I did. As I said earlier, I want to take my own life. So, I'm going to tell you about a plan, how I was going to carry out my suicide. One day I was planning on how I was going to carry out my suicide. I decided, well, of course I might blow my brains out. I mean, the mental pain was just so unbearable. Suicide was my only choice. The plan was to get on the highway and drive as fast as I could. But I thought to myself, if I fail at committing suicide and end up a quadriplegic and have brain damage, then I'll be in worse shape. I would have no controls over my limb. I wouldn't be able to commit suicide then, because I would have 24-hour care. I put deep thought into this plan, even as going as far as to think about the insurance paying my children. I thought about if I carry out this act and the authorities could prove to the insurance company that I committed suicide, they won't pay. My kids would be devastated by my death, and they would have no money left behind for all the money I put into insurance. Working inside the prison, I have seen inmates that failed at suicide and the condition that left them in. Most of them, especially the male inmates, try to hang themselves or cut their wrists. Female inmates try to commit suicide by overdosing. But I have been at an institution where inmates have tried jumping off buildings, trying to die, only to live to be paralyzed. As we all know, there have been those that actually succeeded in taking their lives. Many we know personally, and some who were in the celebrity spotlight, such as Phyllis Hyman. I'm quite sure a few older people know about Phyllis Hyman. I want to read an excerpt from Jet magazine.